Oh, this is going to be good. Boys and girls, we are here on a Thursday evening. For me personally, it's a 3-day weekend because, you know, Big Jacob P, he's graduating 5th grade tomorrow. So we got to take the day off and have some fun with nephew, Big Jacob P. But this isn't about Big Jacob P tonight. This is Starting to Pot with Donkey Cade and our very special guest. He is the president of talent relations. And I keep wanting to call you John Laurinaitis just because of that. I'm sorry. And he is the head booker of one WIN. Wrestling is now. Welcome our new friend, Paul Lauria, to the show. Sir, thank you for taking some time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. We started chit-chatting on the old... can I start somewhere for a minute? This is really bothering me. Before we hit, the old record button, we were off air. I trashed my set. It's a one-man show. It's a cheap-ass set. I'm a cheapskate. But if anything that occurred out of that whole trashing of the set that was worthy, this guy took a dump on the floor. Screw him. By the way, never mind. We're not going to even talk about him. Maybe we will. But anyways, enough of the shenanigans. We are here. We've never met. I don't know jack shit about WIN. Just a little bit. I see the faces and I see the media. I try to keep my eye on the pulse. But boys and girls, this is a little different. We don't have a wrestler. We don't have an announcer. We don't have a valet or a referee tonight. We have ourselves in sorts, if you will, a promoter. We have had him on in a promoter round table at one time. But this is a little change of pace for us. So we're going to meet our new friend because I don't know shit about shit right now. I don't research nothing. You boys and girls know that. I don't write nothing down. We hit record and we try to have some fun. So I've been blabbing for 2 minutes straight, and I can do that for longer. But please, Mr. Lauria, can you tell us a little bit of something? How about let's start with a little background of one Paul Lauria. Can you give us a little nutshell, if you will, of a resume, if you will?
Absolutely. 1990, 1992, myself and a lot of you may know former ECW superstar Mikey Whipwreck and a few friends were backyard wrestlers. We were fortunate enough to get the opportunity to become ring crew for ECW, but at the time it was Eastern Championship Wrestling. It was before it transitioned into Extreme.
Right. ECCW, if you will.
And yes. And then from there, we basically would hang around, play around in the ring, do our thing. We got a couple of opportunities to be like, what's called now enhancement talent, where we would just get squashed or jobbed out or anything like that. What was interesting in the time, though, is that I'm only 5'5". So this was something that was not common at all in wrestling in the early 90s. Mikey Whipwreck ended up getting the run that most people know him for, the Ultimate Underdog run. Where he started winning titles and having wins. And eventually, I think what happened was they kind of wanted to transition him into a little bit more realistic and a serious wrestler. So they needed to find somebody that can make that believable. So I got a phone call to come back in. Paul Heyman gave me a gimmick as the giant Paul Lauria. And me and Mikey had some fun. And
because you're 5'5".
Yeah. And we had some fun. But what that did was it gave me a little bit of name recognition for the indie scene in the Northeast.
Okay.
So I started to get a lot more work on the indies and stuff like that. Mikey had gotten signed over to WCW, but for a little while, they just weren't really using him on TV or anything. So to keep ourselves busy, we were both living on Long Island, and we just decided, let's open up a school and a promotion. And that school and promotion had started to take off, slow at first, but as it started to build, we were introduced to very, very young talent, names like Amazing Red, who had just broken into the business, the Spanish announce team, Chris Devine, Quiet Storm, a very young Christian York and Joey Matthews, who went on to become Joey Mercury. Okay. And this was a time when ECW was kind of on the tail end. It was the Monday Night Wars. Things were going great in wrestling, but ECW was having some financial problems. So a lot of the boys were struggling with pay. And we were running these shows. And I might add that this is 1998 now on Long Island. We were not licensed promoters. These were underground outlaw style shows, not run through New York State Athletic Commission. I think we're good 25 years later. But the point is, we started, Mikey put in a few calls, and once we decided to run our shows on a Thursday night, and the boys of ECW weren't working on Thursdays. So what they started to realize was they shot over Long Island, they were getting a payday. So suddenly this underground warehouse company that, you know, in the 90s with no internet, with no promoting, with no word because we couldn't tell anybody, had this cult following of hundreds and hundreds of people, sellout crowds turning away at the door. And we would have ECW stars show up as a surprise. We would never advertise it. We would never say anything. I mean, the list was, it started with Spike Dudley and Little Guido, but then it grew into guys like Balls Mahoney, Steve Corino, just incredible as ECW champion was in our house. And then on the tail end, Super Crazy, Tajiri were coming in, Balls Mahoney, and that run was pretty incredible for us. And the fun fact of that was even our fan base has gone on to become significant in wrestling. A very, very young 17-year-old, 110-pound kid used to sit front row. That kid fell in love with wrestling, and he ended up moving on to wrestle at WrestleMania in MetLife Stadium in front of 83,000 people and won the Cruiserweight Championship. That was Tony Nese. You know, a fan of ours. Alvin Alvarez, who's a superstar in the indie scene, was a fan of ours. Wrestling is now one of our favorite tag teams, The Audacity, used to come every Thursday night, watch us wrestle. So it's pretty amazing that now in 2023, these little kids who used to watch us wrestle are now wrestling in promotions we all work for.
There's a lot to take in on, what you just gave us. And thank you for sharing, because if we don't ask and you don't reciprocate, that's why we do the STP, my friend. But I want to pull one little thing, a little Jenga piece, if I could, out of everything that you've said. And again, there's a lot to take in, but I was just speaking to my family members because we usually watch WWE. AEW and WWE are very two different products, and I haven't watched AEW on the reg in quite some time. I'm talking probably pre-Punk. I didn't even see when Punk came in. I didn't watch it or nothing. I mean, I see the medias and stuff, all right? And I'm not saying I'm an anti-AEW guy. I'm just saying because if WWE could take out, let's see, 1, 2, they carried the 12 divided by and multiply by. If they could take out 72 hours of promo and a 3-hour show, I would be a better fan. But I still do watch the WWE product more on the reg. But we were watching the AEW product, and I started talking about some of the faces because my fam, especially my mom, 70 years old, I love her to pieces. She's like, I know that guy, don't I? And I start describing who they are, where they came from. And of course you do, under a different name. Mm-hmm. John Moxley, I know that guy. Yeah, you know him as Dean Ambrose. So I start explaining and breaking stuff down. And I'm getting to where the Jenga pieces come. So the Evolve as a company started being part of the discussion because of guys like Tony Nese. There's a Jenga piece. I really loved, to be honest with you, I seen Evolve when they were having like 50 people, not live. I've seen the footage in a firehouse with like 50 people, and then they started growing a little more and a little more. Then Sir William Regal, if you will, started poking his nose in there as a scout for WWE. And they started picking up talent, being a Matt Riddle and a Tony Nese and a Johnny Gargano and such. And that's kind of what I was explaining to the family. And I know I'm going on, but a guy like Tony Nese, I really thought that, not saying that he hasn't gone, to a better platform or a bigger platform. I really thought a guy like Tony Nese was going to just shoot through the stars and just be this kid that was going to be on TV every single week. The commentators, you would hear his name every single week. And sometimes it just never comes to fruition where the fans think that their favorite talents are going to go. So Evolve as a company kind of fizzled away. Makes me sad because that was a great stepping stone to get to WWE. So basically, that's kind of really what I'm talking about is I'm sad to see a company like Evolve go. There's a company like a brand new one called CPW, Chosen Pro Wrestling. They're trying to be one of those stepping stones.
Mm-hmm.
This all comes back to WIN now because we're learning all together, the boys and girls, myself, we're learning about WIN. Is WIN one of these companies that is trying to be a stepping stone to further the careers of these young men and women that we see live on the indie scene?
Absolutely. I have said it to our roster. I have said it on multiple podcasts. I've said it, even on social media, everywhere I go. It's what I get to do is one of the most gratifying, but at the same time, bittersweet things there is in wrestling. I invest time and energy, so much time and energy in the talent that I believe in, only to see it disappear, because that is the ultimate goal. As much as I am a part of Wrestling Is Now on such a personal level, because what some people don't know, a little backstory is Wrestling Is Now is owned and operated by the Maximo brothers, the SAT.
Oh,
yes, Jose and Joel and Will Maximo, their brothers, and their cousin Skills. I was the person who personally gave SAT their first gimmick as SAT. I named them 25 years ago. So that's why they brought me in for their new company now. But the idea is not to become the next AEW, because I don't know that the restrictions of things like TV in the world we're in work so much for us. But we have talent that I truly believe are the future stars that you'll see, whether it's going off to Japan. We had guys already head over. They already worked in CWA Puerto Rico representing Wrestling Is Now. Guys like PJ Savage, Chris Cage, Joey Conway, Hamlet Hertzu. These guys are, they have the it factor. They know how to work in this business. And there are stars, but the truth of the matter is, what I need to do is I need to get them to the point where they move on. And then what that does is it keeps the cycle of wrestling going. Those guys move on, whether it's NXT, AEW, New Japan, wherever they end up going. But that opens up the opportunity for guys on the card to now fill in that role and take that spot and do what they have to do. And so for me, it's bittersweet. But I absolutely believe that Wrestling Is Now will be a 2023 version of what maybe Ring of Honor was to the indie circuit back in 2005.
Okay. Chris Cage. I do not see him enough because he's not in my area. And as a fan, these 2+ hour drives, I did it for a few years straight, and it started really kicking my ass. So I'm more in my area. I will travel here and there sometimes or whatever. But a guy like Chris Cage, I don't see often enough because of our, demographic, our geographic area here. PJ Savage, another one I do not get to see on the regular. And I have to watch these guys. Hamlet Hertzu, you mentioned. I mean, I absolutely love me some Hamlet Hertzu. I've been watching him for some time. And we've had a lot of fun, myself, Hamlet, and one Yorick. That dude's a trip, Yorick. I love these names that you're popping at me because I personally am familiar with them and I've seen them grow. Guys like Jay Bougie, the PJ Savage, as a takeover, the Face and Jocko, Prince Ahmed, these guys that have all come out together in like this really big cluster that came out of Johnny Rod's and really started making a mark for each of them as they started doing their thing. But TakeOver collectively, obviously, There's a little friction going on over there in the takeover. But when they were together, holy shit, they were kicking ass, taking names, and they were going promotion to promotion to promotion in a few different states. Jay Bougie, I had the pleasure of being the first guy to interview him in this area while they got away from where not got away. I like to use spread their wings, like you were saying. Once they leave, that's a good thing because I know they're on to bigger and better things. These guys started spreading their wings, and I've interviewed. I want to interview Face, but he does he doesn't talk, so that's out of the water. But I got Prince Ahmed coming in on Tuesday, and this guy doesn't do interviews. Mm-hmm. So my heart is so warm that Prince Ahmed is choosing this platform to come on to do an interview. I am so fucking stoked, Paul. You have no idea. I've been trying to get this guy on for 2 years. But I love these names that you're throwing at us. Boys and girls, if you're not familiar with any of them that we've been speaking of, please get on the old keyboards. They're all over the social medias. Check these guys out. Let's get back to Win real quick here. How long has Win been together as a promotion here, as a name and doing their thing?
So Win was formed in 2022. They did one show, and I say this with respect. It was not a very successful show. In-ring performance, phenomenal. Presentation-wise, not so much. I was not associated with the company at the time. And there was a lot. It's a lot to take on. It's a lot to do to try to create a company like that. So they had a second show for 2022 booked that they ended up canceling and wanted to regroup and basically reformulate the company. And that's when I was asked to come in. And we had our first show for 2023 on March 31st. And what's interesting about that is the crop of talent you just spoke of. Face, Jay Bougie, PJ Savage, Hamlet Hertzu, Chris Cage, who I'm a huge fan of, all on our roster, all booked for the show. Jay Bougie, unfortunately, couldn't make the show, so he didn't actually work the night of. But an interesting fact about that show was March 31st was the night of the WWE Hall of Fame for WrestleMania weekend. It was the night of a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and it was the night of a GCW Super Show. Oh, wow. And we booked our show without bringing in a quote-unquote name. We did it with our roster of that talent. And we not only sold out our show, we broke the attendance record at our venue. And a lot of people looked at us like we were crazy to do that. But it's exactly what you just talked about. These guys are the top stars on the indie scene right now. And given the right platform and given the right opportunity to be presented in the way they deserve to be presented, they will shine much brighter. And the Maximo brothers, anybody who knows them or has ever followed them knows the trajectory they have taken in tag team wrestling. They never played by the rules. They do things their way. They are called spot monkeys. They are what some consider the original Young Bucks when it came to changing the way evolution of wrestling was going, when it came to the high spots and everything else. They're unapologetic about it, and I love that about them. I'm more old school. I love storytelling. I love the drama, yet I understand that it's a new day and age, and it doesn't mean wrestling one way has stopped. It means wrestling has evolved and it has spawned. And there are teams like FTR who are incredible, and there are teams like the Young Bucks or the SAT who are incredible. There are guys like Roman Reigns who you undeniably cannot say is one of the most entertaining storylines in wrestling. But yet at the same time, if you give me Kenny Omega, I'm loving that match. It's not, there is no right or wrong. It's a preference, and it's amazing. But the reality of it is, when I jumped in with SAT and we wanted to take Wrestling Is Now, we wanted to change the perception game of independent wrestling in the Northeast. And we can, well, later on, we'll touch on how the Northeast, there's a big tie-in with myself and 25 years ago and the Northeast scene in the whole. But for now, it's about changing that perception of what indie wrestling is. And we don't want to have that cookie cutter show up at the show, opening segment is a promo, talking about your main event, bring in the big name to see everybody, rah, rah, get paid, go home, end of story. We do more episodic independent wrestling. We have stories. Everybody has stories integrated into their matches that will sometimes wrap up that night, or sometimes they'll spill over into the next show. And now you have to follow. And what we do with these shows is that we share our stories through social media, on podcasts, on vignettes, on promos, on social media platforms, TikTok, everywhere. So our stories are still being told between each indie show. And it's a new approach to things. And some of the indie companies are picking up on that, and they're kind of doing the same thing as well. But we're just doing it a little bit different. The same way SAT has changed the tag team game, we're kind of changing the indie game.
Mm-hmm. I can appreciate all of that because, first off, give me character, entertainment, character, storyline, and decent in ring. You've got me. But just watching the presentation, never mind of the promotion, what's inside the venue, is I can still get past that as long as the wrestlers' presentation coming through that curtain, down the ramp, through the door, whatever they're doing, hits me. And then I grab onto a guy like Chris Cage, PJ Savage, Hamlet Hershey. I mean, how can you not grasp onto a guy who's got a plastic fucking skeleton in his hand who throws Shakespeare at you, even in ring when he's kicking his opponent's ass? How can you not get drawn into something like that when it comes to wrestling? Because it gives us character. It gives us his promo skills. And I'm talking about Hamlet specifically. Gives us his promo skills. Maybe he does it just a wee bit too much because it's shrouded the whole damn match. He will talk shit to you in Shakespearean the whole damn time, which I find absolutely hilarious. But you get these things and the fans draw to some of this stuff, okay?
Yes.
Now, second off, my home base is Tesla Strength Wrestling out of East Hartford, and it's run by Slick Wagner Brown. It's all Kowalski. He's a Kowalski guy through and through. He teaches a Kowalski lineage. He actually has Ichiban right now, one of the hottest son of a bitches you've ever seen. Speaking of hot on the indie scene, Ichiban #1. Whew, man, this kid is on fire.
We had Ichi. We had Ichi on March 31st. Yep.
I love Ichiban. I love me some Ichiban. Yes. He's only done 2 interviews. Where do you think he's done his interviews? Right here on STP. Are you shitting me? The first one was 2.5 minutes, and then the second one, which we did very recently, was only 1 minute 6 seconds. He looked at me and said, Ichiban. And I go, it was only 1 minute 6 seconds. He goes, #1. And I go, I'm sorry it wasn't at 1 minute, Ichiban. I'm so sorry. So a lot of fun. Ichiban, what a talent. But Tesla Strength, they give us storylines. They give us a reason to come back. Characters. They give us a reason to come back as a fan to buy their tickets. And it's not always the same old faces. They have their own students. They bring in other people without having, sometimes they do, bring in a name, if you will, maybe a Carlito, will come in, or an Eddie Edwards, every so often. But usually it's just the Tesla Strength talent and the surrounding states that they draw from. And it's always the indie scene. And there are, and I'm going to give you an example of storylines, the characters and everything with Tesla Strength specifically. There is a group of kids that come out, and when I say kids, they're like, late 20s, early 30s, and they drive in together as a group, and they're called originally, which they still are, but originally they were called, let's see, and in NEW, Northeast Wrestling, they were called the Insanely Rude Section. Then they transitioned into the Stepdad Squad. Do you know who the Stepdads are?
Yes.
I could go on and on about the Stepdads, but let's not digress. And now they are called the Frost Force. And there's like 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. They all don't come together, but they do come in different forms as a Freebirds. They got the Freebird rules going on over there, okay? Freebirds rule. These guys bring their energy. They bring their fandom. They bring signs. They pay to get in the doors. They pay for the merch. They interact online. Holy shit sticks. Tons of fun is Tesla Strength Wrestling. That kind of seems to where WIN is. Recurring storylines, the characters, some familiar faces. And yes, we have to use some of the familiar faces because that's what we're trying to really elevate. But we bring another talent that surrounds us. That kind of sounds like WIN right now. Am I correct on saying that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have Friday, June 16th, next week. We have we have a show at Ridgefield Park, New Jersey at the Mecca. And we will be introducing our inaugural World Heavyweight Championship that one of 10 men will be competing for in a match that has never existed before that I created called Fatal Elimination. So
wait,
we have a lot of fun.
Whoa. Pahuze, as they say in French, Pahuze. You've invented a match and you're just going to kind of lollygag right past that shit? No. Please, sir, let's Pahuze, then we can continue. Talk to us about the brainchild of this match, what it is, the rules and all of that, okay? And then we can move on, please.
Okay, it's called Fatal Elimination.
Okay.
The basis of the match is that it is a 10-man, tag anyone you want, elimination style match.
Really?
Yep. Everybody's your partner, but everybody's your opponent. Tag anybody you want. Now, you eliminate and eliminate and eliminate until you get to the final four, and then it becomes fatal four-way rules until the first pinfall becomes your champion. So the question becomes, who do you trust, if anyone? Who do you align with? Can you? You have to eliminate everybody, but you have to participate to win. Then you're changing the dynamics. You have to be in a fatal four-way. You can't just sit on the side, or if somebody else takes that pinfall, you lose everything. And the reason why I did this match was because I didn't want Wrestling Is Now to be introduced to the world with two stars and say it's A or B as your champion. So I specifically hand selected the wrestlers based off of their matches from March 31st. We used every version of wrestling that there is. We have Face, who is let's call him hardcore / strong style. Face is a unique individual, doesn't play well with others. We have a PJ Savage, who is today's wrestler in this world. We have the Greek god Papadon, who's a 25-year veteran of wrestling in this match. Yet we have Ellis Taylor, Brando Lee, and Sal Savelli, who are the youth in this industry that have only been around for a few years that wrestle this new style. So it's every version of wrestling, every style of wrestling. You have veterans in the ring along with youth in the ring. What takes over? It truly determines who the best wrestler in the indie scene is. It's not one guy versus another. It's the psychology of how you approach this match. Joey Conway, the cause of it all. He's the devil. He is out here. He does an incredible job. I don't know how Joey's going to fare in a match where 9 other people hate his guts. I don't, and this isn't a battle royal where you just get dumped out. They all want to beat you. So all of these factors play into a match like this. And the beauty of it beyond anything else is that no one person has an advantage because this match has never existed. So every single man in that match on Friday night, June 16th is approaching it for the first time ever. So there is nobody with an experience factor over the other. You can go into it with a game plan that you might believe works better than another. Maybe Papadon, who's anti-leg slap, does not like the spot monkeys or anything else, wants to go with his old school mentality. I don't know how that's going to fare against Chris Cage. I don't know how it's going to fare against a guy like Ellis Taylor. I don't know if these risky, young, high-flying guys are going to make a mistake. Do they have the stamina to go the distance against somebody like Dickie Rods? 10 different men from multiple different companies, 10 different styles, young, old, veterans. You got locker room leaders versus basically rookies in this business, all in the same position. And it also gives the fans something to think about because it's not 50-50 here. So when you look at that roster and you look at that card, you're going to want to get behind somebody, but there's no way to tell. Oh, and by the way, your favorite is in that match also, Hamlet Hurtsu.
Well, my pick. No, my pick. No, I can't do. I can't. I can't pick one. First off, if I do pick one, I'm gonna probably feel the pain from whoever, everybody that I didn't pick. Second off, that's a loaded match right there. You can't pick anybody. There is no favorite. Is there a time limit on this said match?
No, there's no time limit.
Okay.
But these guys, like I said, I can't speak for them. They all called me and said, "Hey, how do I approach this?" And I said, "You figure it out. It's your match. I created it. I don't have to wrestle in it. You know, I don't know if you want to align with somebody or watch your back the whole time, or I don't know if it's every man for himself. We're all going to find out for the first time on Friday night, June 16th.
This is the very first time that this match has ever been presented in any promotion.
Yes. Okay. I created the match.
All right. That's going to be interesting. And you're based out of the New Jersey area, WIN is, correct?
Yes, New Jersey, New York. Yep.
Okay. And I know I jumped up and I yelled at you, Pahuze, and all of that stuff, but innovation, I absolutely love when it comes to wrestling because, I mean, let's face it, I've been a wrestling fan since I was a little kid. My first event was 8 years old back in 78, and I've seen a lot of wrestling. So that's why a guy like Ahmed catches my eye instantly. Very different, very innovative. That dude is, I don't even know how I'm going to ever let him go. He's going to be so sick of me asking him questions. I swear to God. Now, the rest of the record. Okay.
Just not to interrupt you, but for the record, Ahmed and I have spoken. We have had communication, and we're trying to work out some stuff for the future dates.
Oh, love me some Ahmed. See him do his thing. Being on OVW TV, doing the Beyond stuff, traveling to Texas, that dude is everywhere, man. And I love seeing these talents that you've never seen before come around maybe once or twice in my area. Those are the only times I've seen them personally. But to see them thrive and persevere, because we talk about how hard it is to become a singles wrestler on this show. Probably every single interview. That's due to me because I feel that it's like one of the hardest things to actually achieve is to become a singles wrestler because there's so much to gain in that toolbox and so many sacrifices with your family, with everything that surrounds your life to be a wrestler. And it does really fascinate me. I think that's where all of this interview stuff came from. Please, let's continue with the card because I didn't want to just, highlight one match on this card, but I did lose my shit because, again, innovative, something I've never heard of. I'm in. Please continue if we could, because we want to push what you're doing over here.
Absolutely. We had just released 2 days ago. We came to contract agreement with the Long Island Landmine, the Threat, Joe Ocasio, who is an incredible talent. We have also coming in from Long Island, we have Man Bun Jesus, who is a unique individual at best. And again, completely different style and character. We have the prize Alec Price coming in for this event. And if you want to talk about some story and some history and some lineage, one of the mottos we use over in wrestling is respect the legacy. And that comes from, again, the history of the SAT. But anybody who ever followed the Maximo Brothers and followed the SAT knows of what's called the Holy Trinity of Wrestling, which was three teams back in the 2000s during the Ring of Honor, the CZW, the TNA days. And that was the Backseat Boys, that was the Briscoe Brothers, and that was the SAT. And these three teams wrestled each other all over the place everywhere. Unfortunately for the wrestling world, we lost Trent Acid of the Backseat Boys way too early. And unfortunately, last year, we lost Jay Briscoe way too early. But on June 16th, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, Johnny Kashmere of the Backseat Boys is back. And Johnny Kashmere has taken under his wing the brothers of Tommy and JP Grayson, the Grayson boys. And they are now known as the new Backseats. And they're a trios match. So it will be Johnny Kashmere and the new Backseats versus all three SAT brothers, Will, Jose, and Joel Maximo, in a trios match. And in wrestling is now, a trios match is under lucha rules, which basically means there are no tags. As soon as a body leaves the ring, another body comes in. So that is a fast-paced car crash of a match waiting. But here's what's interesting about it. It's got a 20-year history between Johnny Kashmere and Jose and Joel. Wow. Except Johnny Kashmere has never stepped foot in the ring with Will Maximo. It'll be the first time ever. Wow. And Tommy and JP Grayson have never stepped foot in the ring with Joel and Jose Maximo. So while we have 20 years of history, it's a first time ever match. And It's going to be a trios match with history, with much love for each other. But listen, that's all going to go out the window after somebody gets slapped in the face.
Of course. It always does. I mean, it always does, for real. The new Graysons, excuse me, the new Graysons and you, little dots, I have seen, we like to talk evolution of wrestling, character, wrestler, promotion, no matter what it is, because it happens right in front of our eyes. But in wrestling specifically, the major stuff, it seems like it goes in these weird, I like to say, about a 5-year spurt. All of a sudden, new shit just starts happening. You're like, when the hell did that start? The leg slap. Whenever that started, I'm like, when the fuck did that? When did that ever start? But things just happen and they evolve. The new Graysons, they have evolved into the new Graysons as of late. Really, to be honest with you, because they have been the Graysons. Well, they have a different attitude, all depending on where you see them. I have their attitude. Mean young men. But I have also seen them, the fan favorite and stuff. But man, when they're when they are heels, holy shit sticks. The new Graysons have transitioned and evolved. You, as a guy that sees all of these young talents, not only in your promotion, but in surrounding promotions and surrounding talents and surrounding states. But seeing the specific ones, though, these young guys that start coming up and then they start blossoming and leaving the nest. And I'm not taking away from, we still have some more of the card left, but seeing young guys, especially something like the Graysons, evolve, transition, do something. And then all of us, their physiques have even changed. They get older now. They're not kids anymore. They're starting to be men. And it's like, you personally, though, you have to see kids like this that go through this. And you being in the wrestling business previously as a wrestler, it's got to give you a little pride, a little warmth in your heart, seeing these kids really, the ones that do it right, the ones that do it correct, the ones that do the drives and the helping and all of the respect, and that kind of go with tradition, if you will, for the lineage, because you're representing your trainer, your teacher, your mentor, the name of the school. And I'll just use, again, around here, Tessa Strength as an example. You're taking that Kowalski lineage, and when you go out and you get the blessing of said trainer, you're representing. So you don't want to make your school look like a jackass. But you personally have to see these young kids. And I'm using the Graysons as an example. I don't know how long you have or not have known them, but I've seen them for a while. I love it as a fan. You've got to even love it more in a guy, as a guy in your position.
Absolutely. What I love about the Graysons in particular is that they don't just have a manager or a mentor. With Johnny Kashmere, they have a partner. They're not being advised in the back of how to wrestle in a match. They're learning on the fly in real time because he's in the ring with them. They just had a trios match, 3 trios matches, I believe, in the last 2 weeks. They're wrestling, I think, a tag match tonight or tomorrow somewhere local. But it's about the fact that they're so open to learning from a Johnny Kashmere who have so much history and is so talented in what he does. And that was one of the main things as president of talent relations that I approached in Wrestling Is Now. It's the reason why I took somebody who I believe is brilliant in wrestling, and that's the Greek god Papadon. And when I signed him to Wrestling Is Now, and we had been friends and had history way before then, I explained very clearly to him that I didn't just want him in the ring. I wanted him in the locker room. I wanted him to be a locker room leader because of the legacy he has. And we have quite a few guys with the Maximos. These guys have 20 plus years of in-ring experience. We have veterans in our locker room. We have a Long Island legend in Robert Franklin who came up. Oh, he's almost on 30 years, and he started off as a writer who became a super fan, who we brought in. He paid every dues there was. He started off as ring crew, ring announcer, you name it, manager, and then he finally got his opportunity to wrestle in the ring. And about a year and a half ago, he had his final match in the NYWC Psycho Circus in the main event, where he wrestled, and he had his sons there, and it was an amazing thing. And we have a lot of history personally, but when Wrestling Is Now started, he and I spoke, and he wants to come back, but not to wrestle in the ring. He wants to come back to use his mind to pass on knowledge to a younger generation. And they're called Hot Commodity Inc. And he's already acquired Eric and Ian Gordon, the Gordon brothers, and they are a young team who wrestled on March 31st, and they're now with him, and he's making claims and promises that there will be surprises that he has in store for everybody on June 16th. But the Gordons will be wrestling against a not new, but they're an upstart team from Long Island, the Slime Balls, Tommy Rant and Sage Chance, two of the most obnoxious yet exciting and entertaining kids I've ever seen. But those two kids had a shot on March 31st in a three-way dance, and they pulled it out, and they earned their spot into this show. So it's that balance of having veterans and having youth, but not just having what AEW has. We don't have producers or agents in the back talking to these kids. We have managers and wrestlers who are in the ring with them, and that's how they're learning on the fly, because we're trying to find the balance. I mean, in my opinion, if every wrestler in this generation could be like Jay Lethal, where you had this combination of new style with old school, he is the master of it. But we've all seen this. There are plenty that do old school, and then there are plenty that have no idea what psychology is. And in Wrestling Is Now, we're really trying to find a locker room where the talent has that balance. And the new backseats, the Slime Balls, the Gordons, even above the rest who will be making their debut. Tristan Ty and Gabriel Sky with Desmond Cole will all be making a debut next week with us. All of these guys are that type of talent where we find that balance where they're entertaining and they understand and they register with an audience, but they are so exciting to watch what they do.
You've mentioned the Gordon brothers more than once. I've seen the Gordon brothers on a few occasions. I'm a skinny little bastard. I personally would never even, remotely mess with the Gordon brothers. But two big young kids, they just really look hungry. When I seen them, and this was, I'm going back a couple years, easy. Maybe even pre-pandemic, they just looked hungry. They looked like they could do a whole hell of a lot out there, given the right minds to help them persevere. The Gordon brothers, amazing. You mentioned Gabriel Sky. I've seen what an amazing talent he is. I've seen him for a while upcoming. One Desmond Cole, that kid's been on fire. He's, going up and down the East Coast, up to Maine and such, and doing some stuff up there. And you've got some names that I'm familiar with, and I know there's some because I don't know them all. And again, boys and girls, if you don't know, please, because I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit rewind and find the ones that I don't know, and I'm going to get on the old face page and Twitter and stuff, and I want to learn new stuff. So get on the old keyboard and check out some of these names. Um, about the card, because we've been talking a whole lot within this card. Have we finished the card or no?
No. You have Desmond Cole going one-on-one with Adrian Santos.
Oh shit!
Adrian Santos,
the Ecuadorian nightmare or some shit. That dude pisses me off.
I basically just look at him as the Ecuadorian Kevin Owens. The guy is incredible. From the minute I saw his tape, I was totally impressed. He's got an incredible in-ring ability. And he looked really, really solid on March 31st. So Ecuadorian Nightmare, Adrian Santos versus Desmond Cole, to me, is a banger that I can't wait to see. And everybody is fighting for a spot in this company, and that's one of the things that's really fun to watch for us, is seeing how anxious and excited they are about performing, because they're performing for the audience, but they're also performing for the locker room. Because being a new company, we're very open about the fact that we are looking for some of the best talent we have, and we have a lot of it, but that doesn't mean it's always going to stay. It means we're going to evolve too. And we want to have opportunities for other talent as well. So when they are out there and they're on that stage, it comes from the idea of you need to outwork everybody. And maybe I get that from my days back in ECW. I was not in ECW very, very long. I don't call myself a former ECW wrestler. I was blessed to be able to spend the time I had to watch guys like Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit. I was there to see a Chris Jericho, Al Snow, Sabu, Tommy Dreamer. But what I loved most about it was every match, and even the matches I was included in, every match internally tried to outdo the next. It was never opening match, build. Oh, big main event. It was, you go out, work and steal the show, and the next guy tries to beat you. And that's what we have at Win. We don't build and do things traditionally. Everybody runs around and talks about like, hey, fatal elimination on June 16th for the title. And everybody's under the assumption that that's the main event. That might not be the main event. We might open with that. I want to see who can keep up. And it may be a little unorthodox to the fan base, but what it does is it keeps our locker room on its toes. And the reason we keep them on their toes is the same reason we did it on March 31st when they sold out the venue and broke the record. Every one of those talent did that. They did that without the big famous former WWE wrestler. They did that. They carried that show on their shoulders. They deserve that. They deserve that win, no pun intended. And now they know they can do that. And that confidence in that locker room is dangerous.
Absolutely love the aura, if you will, the idea of WIN. I'm digging. I'm picking up everything you're putting down, my friend. But I do want to kind of swing back because this guy isn't talked about enough, and he should be. And I have seen him maybe, if I had to take a guess, about a dozen times throughout since I've been in. I've only been around maybe 7 years or so. And that's the Ecuadorian Nightmare, Adrian Santos. I just wanted to use the word underrated with Adrian Santos because that guy doesn't get talked about enough, and he's been around for a couple minutes. His voice, the interaction with the crowd, his look, his demeanor, his in-ring, he's got the package. I just don't know why it never took off as of yet. But underrated is a word I just kind of wanted to swing back and kind of throw on one Mr. Adrian Santos. Yes, he does piss me off. But, I got to give props where props are due.
Absolutely. I think he is one of the more talented wrestlers on our card. And what's so interesting about it is I was out of wrestling for so long and I came back. I was virtually a stranger to a lot of these kids in that locker room. And I think a talent like Adrian Santos, as much as I respect and see what he's capable of, I believe that he believes, which he should, that he should be in that world title match next week. And he's not in that match. And that's not because he's not qualified. He is beyond qualified. But what I like to see is I like to see him now take that chip that's on his shoulder, because I know he has something to prove now. Yeah. And when he does, I benefit from that. The SAT benefit from that. The locker room does, and so does the audience. And then he realizes that, because listen, this is just day one. This ride just began. We have a long journey to go. He will be in the main event. I'm hoping at some point he'll be a world champion, because he can do it. He is beyond talented. I just like to put people in positions that they're not used to being in, because this is what they do every weekend on the indie scene. And I want them to know that when the phone rings and it's Wrestling Is Now, or you reach out to us and say, hey, I'd love to come work for you, that you don't know what you're getting yourself into right away. And I can promise you, and this is for you and your audience, I can promise you, from the opening match until that night, that last bell closes, that roster doesn't even know what they're in for next week. They don't know yet. There's one person, not the owners of the company, not the guys in the roster. There's one person that knows everything that's set to go. And I want them to understand that this is a company that will be so behind them. I'll say it this way, we will out promote any other company. We will support and put our talent on a platform. They're not on their own. They're not independent contractors that win. They're Joey Conway, Santos, PJ Savage, Chris Cage, Face. They're not alone doing this. They're not out there just going on Instagram and sending out their story to say, oh, I'm on this show. We're going to do that for them, because when I want them to know, when they're here, when they're with us, they're part of something special. They're part of this team. And that is, if you go back in history and if you look at a GCW right now, if you look at a Ring of Honor, if you look at an ECW, and even personally for me, the HWA, which is where I came from, that was always the common denominator of what anybody ever said was the locker room. It was the environment. It was that team. And it's hard for a guy like me and the SAT to say, hey, we're going to bring a company now where we put team into the independent circuit, because really traditionally independent circuit is a promoter who just hires a bunch of guys, puts them on a card, pays them that night, and they go home. But we don't look at them that way. They're on our team. They are our roster. And I know they'll go wrestle somewhere else, but I can guarantee you that nobody will treat them the way we do.
I'm still loving everything. Our friend Paul Lauria, I'm still picking up everything you're putting down, my friend, as a fan. Love it, love it, love it. Holy shit, I'm still trashing this set. Jesus Christmas. We've been talking a lot of talent. We've been talking June 16th. Have we finished the card yet?
I can't tell you that. Yeah. Let's see. We spoke about the slime balls, and we spoke about Hot Commodity Inc. That was an open challenge, by the way. And I'll tell you what, open challenges are a dangerous game with me. I'll take you back a little story time. March 31st. I spoke to you about the HWA back in the day, right? With Tony Nese and the boys being fans. One of Tony Nese's best friends growing up was a wrestler by the name of Absolute Alvin Alvarez, who is a phenomenal talent. And Alvin was a fan of the HWA. Him and Tony Nese used to come and watch us. And Alvin started training in the early 2000s, and he worked his way through. And now he is a veteran in the game. And I've always been a fan of Alvin. We've always had a great rapport with each other. And I had reached out to Alvin about working with us on March 31st. That the Wrestling Is Now is called The Big Fight that just passed. And Alvin wanted to make a splash. He did. He wanted to make a statement. So Alvin went onto social media. Again, it's a new generation. We have toys like computers and social media that I didn't have back in the day. And Alvin wanted to make some noise. So he issued an open challenge. But he didn't just issue an open challenge to Wrestling Is Now. He issued an open challenge to anybody in wrestling. And that wasn't something that was booked by me or SAT. He I know he gets upset when I say this, but in my perception, he took a chance and he swung for the fences, but he kind of went into business for himself.
Okay.
Dickie Rods from NYWC answered that challenge. Now, I know Dickie for a long time. I have a lot of history with NYWC. So I was okay with the idea of bringing in Dickie Rods for this match to happen. I think it'll be a great match. But I have to make the point known to the locker room. It was my first show that I'm booking for Wrestling Is Now. I can't have somebody making an open challenge. So the reality of it is, for Alvin to do that, I told him that unfortunately the winner of that match was going to get their shot at Fatal Elimination. That's on June 16th. And Alvin didn't win. And Dickie Rods came in from NYWC. Dickie Rods took the W, and Dickie Rods is now in that title shot. And Alvin had to learn a lesson that was not, it didn't sit well with him. And it's still not sitting well. And we have some podcasts that me and Alvin have some stuff to work out. We worked it out where Alvin will be at the show. He will be in attendance. But we have a lot to work out when it comes to that. Alvin is an incredible talent. But to your point, Robert Franklin issued an open challenge to anybody in Wrestling Is Now, in which the Slime Balls answered. So people might want to stay tuned to see if there's any repercussions to that match, because you can't just say, I'm issuing an open challenge. So we're going to find out soon. So we got Fatal Elimination for the Win Heavyweight Championship. We've got Hot Commodity Inc., the Gordons versus the Slime Balls. We've got the SAT versus Johnny Cashmere and the new backseats, Tommy and JP Grayson, in a trios match. We've got Above the Rest versus... Who's Above the Rest wrestling? Above the Rest is wrestling against... Oh, my God. I'm so lost on who's on my own card. I got Desmond Cole versus Adrian Santos. And I've got Above the Rest versus... I'm going to have to look up the card as we speak. There's so much going on. Yeah, let me tell you in a second. So we've got... Yes, I've got it right here. We've got... Nope, that's not the card. Hold on one second. I'll find it for you.
That's quite all right. What I love about speaking with our new friend Paul Lauria is, boys and girls, is he talks with excitement, which means he talks with passion, which means he's been in the game for a hot couple minutes here, lava hot couple minutes, but he still has that passion, still has that love for the industry. And you can tell just in our conversation. Please go ahead, Mr. Lauria.
Yes, we have Above the Rest versus, I apologize to them, versus Miracle Generation. Versus Dustin Waller and
shit!
King. Miracle Generation versus Above the Rest.
Now,
I don't know how I forgot that match.
Talk about two kids that I've seen from day one come up, fly from the nest, and just absolutely explode. Would be Miracle Generation collectively, one Dustin Flash Waller and one Kylon King. But we've seen the culmination of it. You have also the likes of Sean Knight and Jay Onyx, the Haven. They were all coming up together in the same school, if you will.
Yes.
Love seeing those kids doing what they're doing nowadays. And it becomes the Miracle Ones when you add in Ichiban. So they become the Miracle Ones, if you will.
Who wrestled in a and on March 31st, we had CMD with Lince Dorado versus the SAT versus the Miracle Ones with Lince Dorado, with Ichiban. That match took place on March 31st in the first ever three-way trios match, which was a complete car crash. One of the most exciting things people have ever seen. Bodies were flying everywhere. It was insane. Unfortunately, Ichi he already had a booking on June 16th. So we're going with Miracle Generation versus Above the Rest on this one. And also we have a Lucha Spectacular match. We have a coming in from Mexico. We have Unico and Commander Jr. will be wrestling in the Lucha style match, as kind of like a specialty match to give the audience just a little bit of exposure to some traditional Lucha style wrestling.
Wow.
And on top of that, we have Alec Price. We have Joe Ocasio. We have Man Bun Jesus. We have Alvarez in action. So we got a packed card. We got a lot going on.
Is there enough time for that event in one day?
We're going to figure it all out. The good thing is these guys like to move, man. None of these guys like to take their time. These guys work hard, work fast. They get it done. It is exciting. It is the minute that bell rings till the end, and buckle up because you're going on a ride.
So, boys and girls, we were just speaking on the card for June 16th, quite in depth, if you will. Yeah, we got sidetracked. That's what I do, though. That's why we don't write nothing down or do a questionnaire. We throw that shit right out the window. We've gone over the card for June 16th. We've been talking ourselves, the boys and girls, myself, Mr. Lauria, for 1 hour solid. It feels about 20 or so minutes. We're having tons of fun. There's all sorts of information, all sorts of new names to check out, and names that are familiar to me that I'm popping for left and right, like a freaking Orville Redenbacher's Jiffy popcorn there. I can't mix Jiffy Pop and Orville Redders. They don't go together. Never mind. See, I only got one brain, so you just gotta, don't mind me. Just take the ride.
I love it.
But we've only really just scratched the surface. I mean, we have been talking for an hour. Am I keeping you too long at this point, sir? Can we continue for a little bit longer?
We haven't even gotten into July 29th yet.
Yes.
We haven't even gotten into the Maximo Legacy Tag Team Tournament.
Yes. More. Give me more. Yes. Now, I want to just touch upon the subject before we move into that, because we do want the boys and girls to know about Win and what they have going. But I wanted to just kind of chill a little bit and talk about the reason how we connected. I put out a post about untimely starts and what I've seen in my experiences. And it kind of started a private conversation between us, which I'm absolutely so stoked and honored that it has, because this is where we are. The timely start in independent wrestling. I am not alone in this. When I put up my post, I was not speaking solely. Believe me when I say this. It's not one promotion. It's not one specific talent that doesn't show up, like a Axl Rose who wants to show up 3 hours late to a fucking concert that makes all the things turn to shit, and you gotta, this is just a general blanket statement from fan to promoter about starting way more than, say, 10 or 15 minutes late. And I get that things happen. We all know that things happen in wrestling. Card of subjects change, and when that happens, boy, Mr. Lauria's head is not good. But to get a timely start, I have been to many that do. But to get a timely start on the regular is just not something that the independent scene seems to have grasped, my man. Could you talk to us, the fans? We're not talking wrestlers. We're not talking the business or behind the scenes or any of that shit. You can kind of give us whatever details or however you want to approach us. But please talk to us, the fans, about my thoughts and my experiences that I projected on the old face page about a timely start when it comes to indie wrestling.
Sure. The reality of it is everything we promote, the term promoting, promotions, we're selling you something where we want you to buy into our product. We want you to come and see our talent. We want you to buy our tickets, take time away from your life, use your money to come and support us, with the hopes that we can give you something that you connect with, so you can choose to use that money to come back to us month after month, week after week, show after show. That responsibility is on the promotion to now give you what you paid for. And it's not just in ring action is what you're paying for. You know, people travel, like you've said, for hours. It's not just the workers and the boys who travel to the shows and the road trips and the quote unquote glamorous life of being a wrestler. The fans do it too. I was a kid who went to the first ever Monday Night Raws in the Manhattan Center. Me and my friends from Long Island jumped on a train at 10 o'clock in the morning to come out of Penn Station, to run around the block, to sit in front of the Manhattan Center in January from about 11:30 on, because there were no advance tickets. Everything was online at the door. So in the middle of January on a 10-degree day, we sat outside for 7 or 8 hours just waiting, because anybody who ever went to those shows knew that it was up on the 7th floor. And there was an elevator that only held about 5 or 6 people. So you could wait in line for that elevator, or you could run up 7 flights of steps to get your front row seats, which we did. We were there early. I sat and watched and waited for tickets. I sat and watched to get into events. And it's our responsibility. And, you know, the cliche term of saying like what we do doesn't exist without the fans. It's absolutely true. I can tell you firsthand, I've wrestled in front of 3 people. And it's not about what I did in that ring. It's about the fact that there's an appreciation of saying, I wrestled in the ECW arena before it was a 2,300 arena in front of a packed house, but I also wrestled in front of 3. And there is everything is on those fans. We all learned this lesson during the pandemic when there were no fans. And I personally struggled. I couldn't watch wrestling. There's wrestling shows now, if the fan base is not involved, if the fan base is not engaged, I can't feel it. It is the one thing I believe that AEW had gotten right for the first 2.5 years. It's still there, but I think there's other things they have to deal with right now. But it was that fan interaction. Mm-hmm. And the reason why all of that is so important is because they're buying in. They are the show. They are part of it. Any wrestler that's ever been in the ring, when the crowd is not feeling it, it is an eternal hell. But any wrestler who's ever been in the ring, when the fans are buying in and they're biting on everything and they're following your story and they're popping on your false finishes, it is magical. It is a palpable energy that you feel, that you can feel when there is such things as a standing ovation or that chant or whatever it is. They are part of the show. For any promotion to disregard that and just think it's okay because I'm too complacent or I'm too lazy to start on time, there are always going to be something that you might have no choice to start late. But there's always a way to handle that too. You might not be able to have a match when the bell time is 8 o'clock, but send somebody out there and do something with the audience. I don't care. Go out there, take your crew, your ring crew. Everybody's got their young boys in the locker room that are trying to help and make their way through. Give them a couple of pieces of merch. Let them go out and throw out to the fans, get the crowd pumped up, be hype men, do whatever you have to do. Find somebody that has a great voice and go sing the national anthem. Buy time. But to sit there and just blatantly leave people waiting, staring at their clock after they worked hard, followed all the posts and promoting you did online, took the time to buy your ticket, spent their hard-earned money to come to your show that you're hoping get invested in your talent and not do right by them, is a complete disservice to a fan base. And the fan base is truly the foundation of what makes especially independent wrestling run. You know, we're not the WWE or AEW. We're not backed by billionaires. Right. You know, whether Raw has a great show or not, whether it's 3,000 or 5,000 or 100,000, we don't have that. If an indie fed doesn't have a fan base, it doesn't survive. There's no way you're paying your talent. It's the structure of the business. So that relationship It is 50-50. There is no 80-20, 30-70. No, it is 50-50. We need to do for them the same way they do for us.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that topic. That's been a very recent topic, and I put it out there to speak on the behalf of the fans. And I may have stirred the pot just a little bit, but it is what it is. And that's not me though. I'm like Switzerland. I've always been like neutral. I will push and I will put over, as they say in the business, any of the athletes out there, whether you're a woman, a man, tall, skinny, black, white, trans, straight, gay, it does not matter. I push them all. I try to lift as much talent as I possibly can. I never try to pull them down and make them look like shit or, put them in negative light in the public. I would never ever fucking do that. So I appreciate you giving us your thoughts on that as a man in your position, because I do feel it's always been a 50-50. Because when I have the talent on here, Kincaid, maybe you're not told this, or if you are, you're not told enough. We appreciate you because you give us this platform, and there's not a lot of places that we can sit and talk and tell our story and this and that. And they really, really, instead of me propping them up, they kind of turn around and they reciprocate that to me, kind of for what I do for them. And I don't ask for it, but they feel it though. It's that dance that we do, but I just do it a little more, if you will, than the fan wrestler dance that we do at the shows. So you sharing your words and your thoughts like that, and a man in your position, I just feel that it has a little more oomph to it. And I want to kind of go back to that feeling of the standing O, or just having the crowd biting on shit at these shows, because I've been at many shows where it's kind of and I've been at shows where it's a roller coaster, but then I've been at shows where it's really hot. I've been, in the whole mix. And if it is kind of I'll try to, at least boo the bad guy or start calling him some kind of name and try to get, a little something going on. But I wanted to revert to that energy when we are biting on stuff. It's rock star-esque, my man. I mean, in that moment, in that environment, in the ring, with those lights, with that specific crowd, at that point in time, rock star-esque. And we make them feel that way because they make us feel away. I can't do that shit in the ring. I'm 130 fucking pounds. I'm built like a candle, and I would shatter like peanut brittle. I can't do that stuff. I am awed and appreciate what they do. And I think that's where a lot of the fan base kind of comes into play, is I can't do that shit. They really kind of catch my eye, and the flashiness and the production and everything that comes with it. But I want to go back to that word, rockstar-esque, if it even is a word in the dictionary. That's what it really feels like. Can you kind of concur with that?
Yeah, I can tell you there were three moments in my life, and two of them were mine. One was not. And it was my first match ever in ECW. Now, full disclosure, when people say, "Oh my God, you wrestled in ECW and this and that," and you have to remember, again, this is 1993, 94. This was before This is before Rey Mysterio and Psychosis. This is before cruiserweights. There was no such thing as small wrestlers in wrestling. I think Dean Malenko and maybe Jericho and maybe outside of Mikey Whipwreck, there was nobody that was under 6 foot that didn't look like a superhero. And Mikey Whipwreck and I were doing our match, and we were never properly trained. We were kids who built the wrestling ring in a backyard. We basically built a deck with basketball poles, and we put bed mattresses on just a solid deck, no give, no anything. And we put chains around the ring on the basketball poles, and we wrapped them in plumbing foam. And that's what we trained. We were self-taught for the most part. And we went literally from that into, we had met a former WWF enhancement talent from the 80s who was opening up a school, so to speak. We were told on the first night we ever stepped foot in that gym, which wasn't much of a gym, but it was a ring. It was a WWE ring. It was the first time we ever got to see and touch it. The guy's name was Sonny Blaze. If you ever go back and Google, and you could watch Sonny Blaze, Saturday mornings getting beat up by all the former WWF guys. And the long story short was, we were told that no one would ever pay a dime to watch somebody like us wrestle. No promoter will ever hire somebody under 6 foot. No fan will ever pay a dime to watch somebody like that wrestle. But you guys, you kids are really good, and you got a lot of heart. You could clean up the gym if you want to and hang out. And long story short was, we ended up just getting a set of keys. And Mikey and myself and a few of our friends, we would literally, we worked our day jobs. And at about 10, 11 o'clock at night, we'd jump in the car and we'd drive to this gym and we'd go in there by ourselves and we would train till about 4 a.m. And that's what we did for a long time. And then that ring was the one that turned out to be the ECW ring crew. So here we are in Philadelphia setting up this ring, and there's Paul Heyman and there's Jimmy Snuka and Road Warrior Hawk. And it's like, wow. And we're doing our thing and we got our shots. But to your point, your question was about that rock star-esque moment. And, we're just two kids that played around. But when I got brought in for the gimmick to work with Mikey, I remember hitting a move that I studied a lot of Japanese tapes. I used to get RF video of Japan, and it was all in Japanese. But I was a super mark for Jushin Liger. And I remember doing kind of like a bow and arrow type, stand on the back of the knees, grab the arms, do a bridge. And I turned it into a dragon sleeper while I had Mikey. And I remember doing it into the hard cam on our match. And it was the hard camera. It was a hard shot of me. This is the first night my first real gimmick. We're on TV, but I'm coming out of virtually a backyard with no training. So I'm just kind of winging this. We're just doing what we did as kids. And if anybody who's ever watched ECW knows of that front row, the sign guy, the hat guy, the Hawaiian shirt guy. And these guys got up and stood and gave a standing ovation while I held that hold. And I'm a heel. And I didn't know it was happening when it happened. But I remember seeing it on TV and that sense of appreciation that I was not familiar with. I will say it till I'm blue in the face. I was so green and inexperienced when I was in ECW. If I had only known then what I know now, maybe that gimmick could have been phenomenal. I didn't know how to work or anything. And I was in my head just doing the stuff we did when we trained and let's just go have fun. I wasn't feeling the crowd, but there was a sense of appreciation. And then after that, we did an indie show. And it was a buddy of mine, Craig. His name was Kid Ego that he wrestled under. And I just remember the crowd being so hot, and we attempted a maneuver that we had never seen before. So again, just being different, trying to stand out on the card, because this was the type of indie show where it was like guys like Raven and King Kong Bundy and Cactus Jack. And it was like, we're the undercard guys. So we would just do anything we could to make a statement.
Right.
And I just remember the crowd never sitting down, like literally the room would shake. And it kind of took me out of my game for a little bit, to be able to and I remember saying to the guys in the match, are you seeing this? It was crazy. And my favorite story of all time was when we had moved on and did the HWA and we had a school, and then we were doing this underground promotion. And it was when we had one of our students was a wrestler he's in the Hall of Fame now, and he's in NYWC, King Mega. He is almost 7 foot. He's a beast. And it was my first introduction to booking because I was writing this, and he was in a match with Amazing Red in the SAT. So you have these four, one 7 foot tall, and Red at the time wasn't the Red we know now, where he's ripped. He was probably maybe 90 pounds at best. SAT were running around wearing sweatpants because they didn't have gear. but these guys worked so hard. And I remember watching Mega sit 7 foot tall. He sat on the top rope. He sat on it, feet on the middle rope. He had Amazing Red over his shoulder, like a power slam position, while he had both members of SAT on the rope standing in choke slams, and he leaped off, did a double choke slam and Rikishi driver on Red from the top rope. And we all thought Red died. And it was one of the most explosive, amazing moments for a crowd reaction in our building. And to sit back and watch it happen to guys we were training, like we were teaching. And I remember Mega coming into the locker room literally with tears in his eyes, like that feeling of appreciation of what it feels like. And we were very spoiled that way, because when we did the HWA, like I said, we would have ECW guys come in, but we never told anybody they were coming in. And I remember asking Tony Nese this. I said, why did you come back to HWA? He said, because I never knew it was going to happen, but I knew something was going to happen, and I had to be there not to miss it. So we never advertised. So we have Justin Credible as ECW World Champion, and we didn't tell anybody. Wow. He just showed up at the end of the night. So imagine these kids go home and they're like, you're never going to believe this, but Justin Credible was just down the road in Holbrook, and that's what it was like. And then in the next month, if it wasn't Justin Credible, it was Balls Mahoney in a cage, or it was Axel Rotten, or it was Steve Corino. And it was that we got so used to that response from a crowd that I think when my run in wrestling ended and then I came back and I started to see the boys again, and I started to go to the indie shows just to say hi to everybody, and that wasn't there, I started to really analyze why isn't this here? Why am I at a promotion that's been around for 20 years? If it's been there for 20 years, how come there's only 120 tickets sold? Like HWA only existed. No, it's not a slight on them. It was a legit question. In HWA, we created something that only existed for 2 years that many in the Northeast consider one of the founding, pillars of independent wrestling in the Northeast. It was us in the Doghouse that created. I mean, what spawned from us, Amazing Red with House of Glory, Mikey Whipper, Shane O'Neill, who was our student, he's the owner of NYWC. From NYWC came Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. Brian Myers is the owner of Creative Pro. Creative Pro is AEW's world champion and women's champion. Chris Statlander, MJF, Acclaimed. And we had, everybody that's wrestling now is part of a school that somehow or another gets tied back to HWA. So I think when I started to see that, what was missing? Why wasn't this the HWA again? Where are these fans? Where was that energy? Where was that excitement? And I'll say this all the time. One of the main reasons I chose to come back with SAT to do Wrestling Is Now was the catalyst of that was Joey Conway. The cause of it all. I saw Joey Conway in a show. I thought, this kid is incredible. He's got all of it. Even as a heel, he was great, but there was this disconnect with the audience. And not that he wasn't getting over. I felt like, why is this kid not in a position to be wrestling in front of 500 or 1,000, anything on the indie level that could be substantial? Like, why is there empty space here? And so I started to fantasy book things in my own head, and I didn't have a platform to do it. And then one day I get a phone call from Joelle of the SAT asking me to be booker. And I thought, all my fantasy bookings have become reality now. But the point of it is there was so much lack of that relationship that I had back in 1998, that the SAT were formed in, that Amazing Red was formed in, that Joey Mercury, that King Mega, that these guys were part of, that I didn't see it now. So to me, that it's a missing ingredient, and it has to be part of that show. So I can't rest until I get that environment back for Wrestling Is Now.
The passion, it just comes right out of you, my man. You've mentioned multiple times here HWA. Could you please give us the name of the acronym HWA? Because I'm sure some of the boys and girls that have been watching are like, what the fuck does he keep saying HWA? Please tell us HWA. And then we can move on to the events that are still upcoming at WIN, because we got to get to that.
Yes. So the HWA was originally the Holbrook Wrestling Alliance, which was just 5 of us in the woods next to a house. Then we had the opportunity to build a wrestling ring in a friend's backyard where we did that. When we transitioned into an actual building and became a school, myself, Mikey Whipwreck, we opened up a school. We transitioned into the Hardcore Wrestling Alliance. And we weren't hardcore in the context of a GCW that people know as hardcore now. It really was about, like you just said, it was about our passion. It was a bunch of us that were undersized, that had to work so much harder because we were trying to break into a company, into industries like indie wrestling, where we weren't accepted because we were looked at as kids, and rightfully so in that time, in that era. But we felt that the HWA was a place where we can take kids that loved it like we did, kids in a backyard. We can give them a safer environment to practice from. And kind of arrogantly, our attitude was also, we don't have to play by the rules. We would get lectured by veterans in the locker room. We even someone as famous as Bruce Hart, Bret Hart's brother. We worked on indies with Bruce Hart, and he would come over and he would want to give us advice and you kids and this and that. And we would never take it. And we were young and we were arrogant and we were green. But we wanted to create something where we can kind of just play by our own rules, do things our own way. We were being influenced by a Paul Heyman at the time with ECW, and he was going, the revolution going in this way. And it wasn't that we just saw it on TV. We were the guys that were ring crew. Me, Mikey Whipwreck, Storm and Mike Norman, Kid Ego. We were ring crew. We were in that locker room. We were privy to these things. We were ring crew the night Shane Douglas threw the belt down. We saw those legendary pep talks from Paul Heyman. And then we got to wrestle in matches and we got to get advice from people. So we kind of took that anti-authority, F you to the world attitude and thought we're going to do it our own way. So we kind of just made up our own rules. And I don't know that we expected it to get the groundswell it did in this underground, like, cult following that it did. But it just got so big, so fast, and it had so much excitement to it. So the Hardcore Wrestling Alliance which is now, it was inducted in 2021 into the NYWC Hall of Fame, which is kind of cool that it got acknowledged in a lot of the fans. But like I said, it ties into the whole history of the Northeast independent scene. I don't think you could find a wrestler on the indie scene that somehow or another we're not all tied together like some sort of dysfunctional family.
Excuse me. As you were naming how it all kind of tied in, and the schools and the names and the guys who are running it, I'm like, holy shit. We speak about this all the time. The world of wrestling, it gives back, it continues, it gives back, it continues, it gives back, and it continues. And this, boys and girls, that whole breakdown for where he was talking to schools and the names and, the MJFs and the Brian Myers. And I know you said the Acclaimed, the Brian Myers and such. Bobby Orlando, I fucking love Bobby Orlando. He's my mom, by the way. I love me some Bobby Orlando. But you were breaking that all down, and as a fan, I'm just like, holy shit, that's just beautiful. The way it all comes together, man. Misfit Island, as they say. Good stuff.
Mikey Whipwreck was the catalyst. He was and is what I consider probably one of the greatest, most unrecognized trainers in the independent circuit. He was the one, like, literally, that had trained. So like I said, in the HWA, there are tapes where I can show you in matches Shane O'Neill, owner operator, NYWC, Amazing Red, and Brian XL, owner operators of House of Glory Wrestling. Then you have SAT, owner operators of Wrestling Is Now. And then from NYWC spawns Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins, who now has Creative Pro Wrestling, who then spawns his talent, like of MJF, Orange Cassidy, and those guys like that. And Mikey Whipwreck was so integral in training so many of these guys as they went on. But again, it all still boils down from those roots. And then on the flip side of that, you had the Brooklyn boys with the Doghouse, where you had Homicide, and you had, where SAT and Red and them over there, where you had LIWF and Homicide, and you had Hernandez. And then from there, you now have Santana and Ortiz, and you have Low Key, and Rest of the Soul, Xavier from back in the day. Like, people talk about how Xavier passed, yet my last set of wrestling tights were designed and created by Xavier. Again, just we didn't know this back then. We didn't know it back then, that if you fast forward 25 years, that look at what you're looking at. Like when you Amazing Red and Brian XL just showed up at GCW last week. Like, you watch AEW on any given night, and it's like, hey, there's half of NYWC's roster right there. Oh, there's the guys that used to sit front row at our shows. Like, this is what wrestling is in the Northeast, And I sometimes I wonder, does the West Coast have their version of this as well? But we didn't recognize this at first. We didn't know. I thought for 15, 20 years, HWA was this little thing that we did, and it moved on. And then when the NYWC Hall of Fame came up in 2021 about putting HWA in it, and suddenly the stories and the contacts and the communication, and then that exploded. And then when I got asked to be, president of talent relations and head booker for Wrestling Is Now, I believe I'm going to meet talent for the first time ever, and they're dropping HWA terms, and oh my God, no, we know all of this, and we know from where, and we didn't know that we didn't know it existed. We didn't know that it was tangible. And it opened up my eyes a lot more. And it really bridged the gap between me and the talent to say, now a guy like PJ Savage and me, we sit and talk, or a guy like Joey Conway, when I get the chance. I hate his guts. But the truth is, when we do talk, there's just an understanding, it's an understanding. And I think that I sometimes wonder, maybe that's, again, that perception of, a lot of indie promotions are either run by a indie wrestler or some sort of money man that brought in somebody else. And I think what's cool about Wrestling Is Now is that it's owned and operated by the Maximo brothers, but their cousin who's just breaking in as their manager. But then there's me, that I'm not an owner here, but they have given me free reign to just be creative. So I put everything I have into it, but I also have nothing to lose or nothing to gain, so to speak, where when I talk to a talent, it's straight up about making that talent work. I don't lose money if the show flops. I don't make $1 million if the show's success. So I do it based off of, I want the best. I see PJ Savage and I see a ring, and I think that this is a stage. Now, you have to say to yourself, okay, so every wrestling promotion has a ring, and most of the Northeast Indies are using the same talent. You said it yourself. If I asked you about Hamlet Hertzu, how many different federations have you seen him wrestle for? It really does boil down to the company and how we present these guys. How do we give them their platform to perform, and what story do we want them to tell? I don't tell them their stories. I tell them my ideas, and my ideas are basically a blank canvas for them to do what they do best, and then make that story. And then together we kind of sit back and look at it and say, oh, I can see where this is going to go now. And then we just jump on and go for that ride, and it's kind of a beautiful thing when it works. It'll be a train wreck if it doesn't, but when it works, it's pretty amazing.
I have noticed on the Wrestling Is Now logo, over it says social media tour or something like that. Is that what Mr. Paul Lauria is, the face of this media tour? Is there any are the SAT along for this media tour ride?
Yes. So goes back to the HWA again. HWA, within 2 years, I mean, I this is not an exaggeration. If you ask the SAT or anybody that's ever worked it, we were running completely underground illegal shows. We had, I believe it was 500 chairs around the ring in a warehouse. We would sell out the 500 with standing room only. I think we were somewhere in the vicinity of like 700 and something people, jam packed, no guardrails, no mats on the floor. Like if we needed another row, you would have your feet under the ring and bodies would land on top of you. It was, and there were nights where we turned away hundreds of people. Hundreds of people. We had the cops show up one night because they didn't understand why there was a mess of hundreds of people. We were in an industrial park that during the day, all the businesses ran, but we didn't open up the school till 6 o'clock at night. So the parking lot would be empty. All the businesses were closed. So we would have the school packed out and then hundreds lined down the side of the buildings out to the street. And the cops showed up, and we were very blessed that one of our students at the time was a Harlem detective. So he went out and spoke to some of the cops and he cleared it up for us. Thank God we didn't get in trouble. But the point of my story is that we were able to do this in a world where social media didn't exist, right? We were able to do this in a world where I wasn't allowed to take Justin Credible with the ECW title and put him on a poster and say, come see him. We were very fortunate that we created the environment that people were coming anyway. So we were blessed with the ability to say, we don't have to tell them. We sold out anyway. Now it's just icing on the cake. Let's give them that cherry on top and surprise them. Lights go black. Justin Credible's there. Amazing moments. So for 20 something years, I would say to myself, what if you can do what the HWA did then in the world we live in now with things like social media? We didn't have any of this stuff back in the day. If you worked for a promoter, like when I did indies in the early 90s, I got given a pile of tickets and I got given a pile of posters, and I had to go and staple them on in there and put them in cars and hand them to my friends and do whatever. And now the world exists at our fingertips. I could promote anywhere. I bust out my phone. I'm promoting. I'm sending out posters to thousands of people. And for the longest time, I would look at social media and I would find out through one of my friends who's a talent, whether it's Alvin Alvarez or if it's somebody like a Tony Nese or whoever's wrestling somewhere. And I would wonder to myself, how come I don't know about this show? How could a show be 5 miles away from my own front door and I don't know about it? And I think what happened was, I think promoters and companies got so, I guess, cookie cutter. They just all did the same thing through social media. They would just kind of say, oh, I got an event. Oh, my guys will, I'll tell my boys to push tickets. And
right.
I felt as if it became white noise. I would scroll through Facebook. And as I'm scrolling through Facebook, I was promotion. And I'm like, nothing's changing it from me. So I always had an idea in my head that if, again, fantasy booking, I guess, but when Wynn approached me, one of the things I really wanted to implement, and it's out there now, so I'm not giving away any trade secret. One of the things I wanted to implement the most was what was called the Wynn Social Media Tour. When an actor or an actress is in a brand new movie, they go on a media tour. They go do all the TV shows, and they're on late night with Jimmy Fallon and do all these things. Well, we're not that famous, but what do we have at our disposal is we have social media along with podcasters like yourself, like Metal Geek, like Beyond the Barricade with Papa Denk, with Drinking at Mo. There are so many wrestling podcasts that they're just trying their hardest to make. They want to be involved too, man. They want to get out there. They're out there searching for talent. Come on my show. Come on my show. So I thought to myself, what if we build these relationships? Hey, Kincaid, come on over. Come work with Wynn. You don't have to kill yourself looking for talent because I'm going to give you guys from our roster onto your show. Let's put one guy on a week for the next 5 weeks leading. So you're going to help us build our show. I'm going to give you talent. You're getting more views. We're getting more views. We're promoting a show. Your name's getting bigger. Come to our live events. Put your banners up. It was kind of a no-brainer in my eyes with the way technology works today. And it expands stuff so greatly because we introduce our fan base to you and you to our fan base. And when we started to do this, there are some podcasts that we work with that only have maybe 10 or 15 followers, or you're doing a podcast and there's only 3 people watching. It doesn't matter. That's fine. It's the relationships we're building. And Tantalizing Tony is somebody in the wrestling business that I've known for over 30 years. We're brothers from another mother. He has found his calling in being a YouTube broadcaster, and his show is incredible. And he was one of the guys that helped us with our Facebook page. And, I'm proud to say, like, even our Facebook page alone, in our first 4 months, we've got over 1,200 followers just in 4 months on Wrestling Is Now. We're virtually an unknown company who's doing what every other company is doing. And yet within 4 months, 1,200 people have now started to follow. And now daily that is growing. Day by day, that number grows. And I truly believe it is because of these relationships, because the relationships we have with our roster, because unlike what I see a lot of other companies, when I see a company out there and I see the same routine, I see a talent, they take that poster and they put it in their story, and that story is up, and I got to go into my Instagram and click on that story to see it. But it seems like with our roster, when we put a post up or a poster, they put it on their personal page, and it doesn't just disappear in 30 seconds. It's there. And I see all our insights, and I have guys like, I put up a post about Joe Ocasio. Joe Ocasio is going to basically be debuting at Win next week. And in the first 12 hours, it's already got 1,000 interactions. It's because of, that's not because of me. It's not because of Win. It's the relationship that Joe Ocasio has with Win, that we have with him, that we have with you, and the podcasters that we have. And that's why even our first interaction on your Facebook post, and the reason why I felt the need to reach out to you, was because it's relationships like this that are going to build and make everybody better. And I think at the end of the day, what does that do? Your brand is better, my brand is better, and the talent gets better, and they get more work and more exposure. And hopefully at the end of this, some of these talent end up leaving because they just got signed to some really big deal, and now they're doing really well in the industry, and they get to live their dream.
Absolutely. All of that. And that's why I hope whatever little light that I have, that I can shine on any of the talent. That's exactly why I do this, because it's far few in between that someone will come up to a new talent that's either started as a student or has only been around for a year. They don't want to talk to that kid. They want to try to get the names that are hot and that can get the clicks, if you want. I've always told myself, when I start this, I go for the talent that are up and coming. I go for the talent that have been around, that just want a spotlight, that maybe haven't got a shot, or that have been around and that do stuff, that maybe want to come on and tell a different story that they haven't told in an interview or so, if they've been around 15, 20 years. That has always been why this has started, for the backstories, and try to shine a little bit of light on the industry itself and the young talent that are up and coming. Oh wow, I've got charging coming up in my ear. My earpiece is taking a shit, but that's all right. We've been talking. There's been a lot of philosophy within our conversations, without like propaganda throwing out philosophy, if you will, because you're speaking in conversation and terms that is all relatable. And we've talked business without talking business. It's kind of weird how this is kind of all culminated here. And I know this was supposed to very focus on Win and the events and the upcoming and all of that. And these side conversations that we've been talking have absolutely hit me as a fan. I love all of what we've been speaking about. But if I don't talk about the next event that's coming up for Win, besides the June 16th, probably your fans, your followers are going to kick me in my ass for not asking. And I want to kind of go back to it could be only 3 people that watched maybe X episode. To me, That doesn't matter. Yes, we want thousands. Yes, we want 10,000s and 100,000s of likes and subscriptions and all that. If I can get one more set of eyes on WIN tonight, that is my goal. Just one more set of eyes. If we can get more than that, fuck yeah. That's bonus. So that's pretty much where I'm
I
at.
agree.
You know what I'm saying, my man? See, that's what I'm talking. We're on the same page here. My earpiece is taking a shitter. So if it changes, if the audio changes a little bit, I apologize. So what we're going to do.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah, power off. It gave me a power off. F you. Are you able to hear me, my man?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Excellent. Please, without me yammering and jumping pahuze in your face, let's let's get to the next event, because we're on the cusp of a 2-hour conversation right here, my friend. This is absolutely fucking amazing. Please take it over.
I love it. All right, listen. So the truth of the matter is this: there's not a lot of information to give because it's kind of special, but I'm going to lay it out there anyway. Again, what some might call a little bit ballsy of a move, on July 29th, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, at the Mecca, that I self-proclaimed the house that Wynn built because we broke the attendance record there on our first event there. So it's our house.
Nice.
We are going to be hosting the Maximo Legacy Tag Team Tournament, where we'll be introducing the Wrestling Is Now tag team titles. And what's going to happen in this is that we're dedicating the entire show just to the tag team tournament. This isn't a show about, we're not going to lead into this show after show and then the finals will take place. The Maximos made their living in tag team wrestling. They are tag team specialists. We like to honor tag team wrestling in Wrestling Is Now. It's something that I believe has never been highlighted properly in any promotion ever. Yes, have there been great tag teams? Sure, but it's common knowledge that within WWE or even now in AEW, that tag team wrestling in its finest form is not really respected and presented on the level that if you're a fan of tag team wrestling, you would appreciate. So we wanted to make sure that we're dedicating the entire show. It'll be 8 teams that we select. We did announce last night that the first team that has been announced for this will be Tommy and JP Grayson, the new backseats, will be competing for the Wrestling Is Now Tag Team Championships. There'll be 7 other teams. Are those teams all from Wrestling Is Now? Maybe or maybe not. There might be teams invited from other companies. It's true. It's no different than what I did with Fatal Elimination. It's to find out. It's the Maximo Legacy Tag Team. It's to find out who the best tag teams are. And I'm on a search to find those best tag teams. We're putting out feelers on Twitter. All the boys are asking. Ask your fans. Let's do polls. Let's find out those teams that are out there. I know I personally have favorites that I'd love to see in there, but there are only 8 spots, and we just gave one up, so now there's only 7 left. So the Maximo Legacy Tag Team Tournament will take place on July 29th. There will be one little offset to that, and that is between the finals and the semifinals of that match, to give the teams a break, because somebody is going to be working 3 times that night. So there'll be 4 matches, then there'll be the semifinals for 2. We'll give them a break, and then the finals. We are going to have an invitational match. We're going to find and invite 4 non-contracted Wrestling Is Now talents to come in and wrestle in a 4-way, and the winner will get a shot at a Wrestling Is Now championship, even though they're not part of the company.
What?
So those names will be announced. Those 4 names will be announced within the next coming month. And to top that, so the rest of the roster that's watching right now isn't saying, I guess I'm not getting booked. 2 weeks later, back at Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, at the Mecca on August 11th, we will be doing a full roster card for Wrestling Is Now again, where we will have our first ever, we'll have our new heavyweight champion defending his championship, whoever that may be. We'll have our new tag team champions defending their tag team championships, whoever those may be. And we're going to find out about this invitational. Whoever wins the invitational will have new members of the roster. We're going to find out where these stories from June 16th are going. And there is some other stuff on the horizon that this fall we will be introducing. The Wrestling Is Now Trios tag team. Well, Trios titles, not tag team, Trios titles. And we will be having another singles belt that will have a pretty significant caveat. But I don't want to give that away until we announce it because, truth be told, I don't want anybody stealing it from us.
Whole lot of happening going on.
Yes.
Behind the closed doors of One Wrestling Is Now, evolving right in front of our eyes, boys and girls. And I know we all don't live in New Jersey, New York area, and I know we all can't get to these shows. But with the excitement, with the passion, with the roster and the names that he's been giving us, and the innovative matches, I think you should really get on this train and keep your eyes on the evolution of Wrestling Is Now. Because holy cow, you've got a lot of things on your plate, my man.
Yes, and truth be told, that I know I've been talking about Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, quite a bit, but we do have dates scheduled for Long Island. We want to make the return to New York for Wrestling Is Now something special. So
Okay.
we're holding that date for something very significant. But for any of the fans that are watching, even if you're in Connecticut, depending on where you are, you can always hop on that ferry right over in Port Jeff or New London, and you can come on over. We will be running. We have shows, we have venues and shows already booked for Long Island. We just haven't released the dates just yet.
All right.
And we can promise you that those shows are going to introduce new things that, again, you're going to want to be part of this ride.
So, fantasy booker Paul Lauria has really taken whatever has been going on in this head of his and has been kind of really jotting some shit down, because you seem to have some timeline already set out in advance here.
Yes. And it's not telling the wrestlers where they have to go. It's introducing new things. So when you think about a trios, right? When you think about the trios, I don't know if that's going to be a tournament. I don't know if that's going to be one night only or if it's built. And the other thing is, you then have to look at the roster and you have to look at some of these other trios out there. And you have to say to yourself, is Johnny Cashmere in the new backseats? Are they going to be involved? Is the trios like Desmond Cole and Above the Rest, are they going to formulate? Ichiban with Miracle Generation, the Miracle Ones, there's a trios right there. Do individuals decide to jump in on this? And the one thing about Wrestling Is Now that we did agree on is that trios, the definition of trios wrestling, goes back to lucha style from Ring of Honor in Wrestling Is Now, which means when we have a trios match, there are no tags. Those trios matches will be once you leave the ring. So when you're that champion, we're not going to be dealing with the referees, and we're not going to be dealing with, those waiting for the tag. It is going to be fast paced. So if you think you're up for that kind of match, if you think you can defend titles in that context, it's a different animal altogether. And I don't know how much of this roster has that kind of experience. I know that SAT has it. I know that Johnny Cashmere has it. I know that some of the older guys from Ring of Honor might have that, but this is a new animal. These guys are going to be outside their comfort zone, but it's also something for the fans, because I don't think the fans are used to that. One of the biggest critiques I watch every single week, and I am guilty of it, is when you're a company like AEW and you go out there and you talk about how we're gonna have rules. We're gonna extend the outside the ring rules for 20 seconds, and we're gonna hold you accountable for. And then there's no rhyme or reason, and people are out there for days, and it's all over the place. It puts you under a microscope. Well, I'm just letting everybody know right now, don't worry about the microscope in our trios division. In our tag team division, our referees are instructed you follow those rules, and you'll be disqualified. I don't care about that. Like our refs, we will follow the rules and we will respect tag team wrestling. Trios, buckle up, because you're gonna see some fun, because you don't have to worry about that stuff. So there'll be a little bit of everything for everybody, and maybe if you're a wrestler that doesn't do well with rules, then go get some partners and join the trios division, because you don't have to worry about making tags. You can just come in and out, and have some fun. So maybe if that suits your style more, maybe that works. Let's enhance their strengths and hide their weaknesses. If you can't handle being in a tag match because you can't stand outside that ring, wait for that tag, and you're getting disqualified because you keep jumping in, then go get 2 other partners and become part of the trios division. But it'll be something different for the fans.
I don't know if you've noticed this, boys and girls. I have, especially even since before I even hit the damn record button. Our new friend, that beautiful smile has not left his face this whole entire conversation. Sometimes I'll kick back and soak in what he's saying, but my guy right here, that beautiful smile is always there, speaking about wrestling and the talent and what he's got coming up. I just absolutely love everything you've brought to the table with us, the fans, on STP tonight. Mr. Lauria, you have been an absolute gem. I could talk to you for another 7 hours, and I don't have work tomorrow. I took tomorrow off to go see Big Jacob P's graduation.
We'll save it for another episode. We'll do it again. You are more than welcome. I want to personally invite you and your podcast, STP, to be part of the Social Win Media Tour.
Us, because my name is on it, but this show, it's not for me. It's for the fans. It's our show. Yep. So we are always interviewing the talent. It's never me, okay? And I know everybody is not going to go to the New Jersey, New York area, but you might want to take Mr. Lauria up on this offer, because it sounds like a hell of a barn burner, a fisticuffs. There's a whole lot going on in WIN that just seems very exciting, very fresh, and the talent that he's spoken about gets me awfully excited, because there's a lot of familiar names and faces that we have spoken upon in this conversation. And I mean, if you really want, we can do another 3 hours. I'll have to do some curricular activities to continue that conversation, but what I'd really like to do is maybe kind of bring it to a tail end.
We'll definitely do it again, though. We will. It was a great interview. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, I would absolutely love to have the return of Paul Lauria. That would be absolutely amazing. But before I do let you go, I usually like to ask about a fun road story or such. But in our conversation, you gave us some fucking gems already. I don't even have to go that route. So basically, and I know you're on a media tour. I've probably asked some of the questions that you have been asked previously. I'm almost positive. But is there anything that I haven't talked about, maybe that you had kind of on your mind that you were going to speak about tonight, that I haven't asked you?
Honestly, I think it's really just about independent wrestling in general. I mean, that's what this is all about. I'm blessed to be able to come back at my age after being out of wrestling for 20 years to be able to get to do what I miss the most. A lot of people always ask me whenever I went to a show, they see the ring and they say, do you miss wrestling? And I don't miss wrestling. I don't miss being in the ring, because I truly found that my love for this business was in my head, to be able to create and to be able to create something that when you think by yourself and then you write it down really quick and you learn that, hey, this idea that I have, maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe it doesn't fit my character, but I have this idea that might work great for you, Kincaid. I could totally see you doing this. And when I found that out back in 1999 on the tail end, that the ideas I have are fitting other characters, and I was okay with letting those ideas go and giving them to somebody else, and then watching those ideas play out in real time, and in the response from somebody, it was kind of like an anomaly to me. It was amazing to feel that I can love something so much that I wasn't personally part of, that I'm in the dark in the locker room watching on a little monitor, but feeling the sense of pride and excitement for other guys. And I think when I first started in wrestling, I was so egotistical. I think I just wanted the spotlight and all of that. And it was this crazy transition to go into loving something so much that I would never get recognized for, to be able to sit in the locker room, say, I want to do this, this, this. And then those guys go out and execute. And when they execute it right, it is magic. And to be able to sit and watch them and how it works out. And I miss that. Like I said, when I would go to a show, I didn't miss being a wrestler and want to get in the ring. But when I saw Joey Conway, in my head, I thought to myself, how are you not taking this guy and doing this or that? And those were the things that would sit with me day after day, and my mind wouldn't stop. So I love that I can come back and do that. And awesome. I think overall in independent wrestling, at the end of the day, I hope that the business itself starts to flourish. I kind of feel like, especially in the Northeast, it's on an uptick. I think that there are some companies out there that I've spoken to recently. And I don't take this, I say this with respect. I expect certain things from a creative pro. You know, it's Brian Myers from the WWE. It's, you know, they do an incredible job, but now your talent is on AEW. So it's almost like it's already, that machine is fully running. So I think I find my focus and my heart when I see a company like Remarkable Wrestling on Long Island, this young upstart that is kind of making some noise, and they're kind of doing their thing. And I have so much respect for that, because that's relatable to me. I'm not the former WWE wrestler that made it, that I could just sprinkle my WWE dust on and now I have a school and everybody comes because I have this giant name. So when I see Remarkable Wrestling working on what they're working on, I have so much respect for that. And as I'm now in this business for 6 months at this point, after being removed for 20 years, and I'm being introduced to these other companies, and I'm seeing these other talent, and I'm seeing guys like PJ Savage and Chris Cage and Face and Joey Conway and my old friends like Papadon and them. I just truly hope that this business flourishes more, because I was the fan who knows what it feels like to just be part of that special show. And I was also the wrestler that knows what it's like to be part of that special show. And when it's done right, it's a win-win. When it's done right, everybody got their money's worth, and it benefits everybody. For you to know that you took time out of your day and spend your hard-earned money and feel like you got your money's worth, and you're like, I just can't wait for the next show. That's why we do this. And for the worker to be part of that experience, I can tell you at 50 years old that those are the things that these kids don't know. In the next 20 or 30 years, when they look down the road, those are the things that they're going to remember. I spoke to a guy today that reached out to me on Facebook, and he said he trained at the HWA, and I didn't remember him. I'm sorry I didn't remember him. I just didn't. I had matches with people I don't remember. Sorry, that's my dog. I don't remember some of the venues, but what I remember are the moments. So I truly hope that every one of these talents gets to have that moment, because if you don't make it to the WWE or AEW, if you become that weekend warrior, if you become that indie guy that just goes through it and there's nothing wrong with that, when you are 50 and you look back, those are the things you're going to remember. Mm-hmm. And as fans, I think that's just as important, because they know that quality is still out there for them, that personal interaction, that close up and personal, to know that, am I going to in 10 years talk about how I saw Joey Conway in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, and yet here he is wrestling against PJ Savage on WrestleMania, you know, and to be part of that is something special. And I guess that's the whole goal in this whole thing.
Yeah. I talk about memories all the time as fans, taking the drive back home and talking about specific things that we remember from matches or intermission or something, you know, these things. And it's the same thing with talent, but in a different way. But the moments and the memories, that's always a major topic on STP. But before I do let you go, I would be so remiss to not have you give some details to the fans, or even some of the upcoming talent that might want to reach out to one Paul Lauria, the president of of talent relations. Give us the deets. If there's a Twitter, a face page, a Pornhub, you never know what's going on over there. And then after, and then after your personal stuff, or how to get a hold of you, give some deets for when Wrestling Is Now, so the fans, we can follow all of this cool stuff that Win is doing right now. So please take over, my friend.
Yeah. So listen, the easiest way to reach me, obviously, on Facebook, it's my name, Paul Lauria. You can always reach me on the Wrestling Is Now Win page. There are two pages because one was linked to Instagram, but the Wrestling Is Now Win page is where you want to go. You can message me directly on there. And that goes for everybody, whether you're a fan and you want information on a show, whether you just want to interact with our followers, if you want to interact with our talent, if you're a worker and you want to look for work, reach me through there. Reach me through any of the talent. Everybody knows my number is open to everybody. So if you know a wrestler and you're looking for work, or if you're a podcaster that wants to get involved with the social media tour, if you just want to get involved in wrestling in any which way, feel free. Everything we have, all our posters have a QR code. You can sign that QR code. And you know what? I could even put it on your screen right now, I bet. And what we can do is on our QR code with this, it's linked to every social media, all our socials, and it's also linked to Eventbrite for our ticket sales for shows that we have.
Okay.
So definitely go on to Wrestling Is Now Win. That, I don't know if that will work. I probably have to shut that light off a little bit. Let me turn that a little bit out. But yeah, that's our QR code.
Okay.
And if you see that on our page, feel free to take a shot of that, and it will link you to everything that we do. And like I said, any of the boys, we're all on our pages. So send it out. We're not hard to find. Like, we're pretty easy with that stuff. And as far as the events go, like I said, we got June 16th, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, followed up by the Maximo Legacy Tag Team Tournament on July 29th. And there might be some shows that pop up in between there. But then we have August 11th, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, where we'll be back with a full roster card. We will have September 15th on Long Island, September 29th in Ridgefield Park. Yeah, we got dates going all the way out for a while. But again, I don't want to throw all of that at you yet. Come on our pages, follow along for the ride, follow everybody on the social media tour. We will have more guests coming on with Kincaid on moving forward, because Wrestling Is Now, it really is. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create something a little bit different, trying to create that different environment. And the fans, just like the podcast, just like the wrestlers, we're all part of that whole thing. So together we can make this pretty magical.
Sharing the love with Paul Lauria. This has been absolutely 2 hours, 8 minutes. Wow. We've been chat. It just flows when we talk wrestling, and the passion. It just kind of flows. Sir, I cannot. First off, never met me, and you come on the show. I don't know if you've checked it out previously, and if you did, why the hell did you come on here? But I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, your busy life, and everything you've got going on to chat with us about WIN, your background, your thoughts, your philosophies, the psychology. The word psychology in wrestling is always something that seems to not escape everywhere. But when it does, you can tell. It seems, and when it hasn't escaped. You've got that on lock, my friend. Thank you so much for spending the time with us and talking to us, the fans. I cannot appreciate it enough.
I appreciate the time, really. And definitely let's do it again. I'm glad that we were able to connect. I'm glad that we had a good conversation. I hope you take me up on my offer at some point in time. I promise you, it would be worth the 2-hour drive. Listen, we have some shows that'll come up on Saturdays, so it might be a little bit easier of a drive if you happen to be off those days.
All
But
right.
definitely make the effort. We will be expanding. We will be traveling. We will be going to other states. We'll be expanding to Pennsylvania, to Connecticut as well. But you know, these beginning months are kind of special right now, and they're exciting because everybody's enjoying this ride. So, you know, try to get on board. Try to come on out and check out an amazing show. We promise we're not going to let you down.
Absolutely. It sounds like an amazing time. Like I've said previous, the names that are familiar and the names that are new, I'm going to go check some of those out. But you got me all amped up. I don't think I'm even going to bed for another couple hours here myself. Probably 3, 4, 5. Who knows? Boys and girls, we had such a fine time with our new friend, Paul Lauria, the head booker, the president of talent relations. This was just an amazing 2-hour conversation. Who knew it was going to go like? I thought he was going to hang up on me in like 17 minutes, for F's sake. This has been absolutely
No, we're having a good time.
This is Sir the Pot with Don Kincaid and our very special guest, the president of talent relations, the president of talent relations and the head booker of WIN Wrestling Is Now, Paul Lauria. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.